Today we are starting in Excel, so the first thing that you need to do is open up Excel and start a blank workbook in Excel. You may also want to have your OneNote open, because in your OneNote, in the Excel section in your notebook, you should have this packet here that says Excel Day 1, the basics. This is the packet that we're going to be following along with today. So if I were you, what I would do is I would split screen between the packet on one side and Excel on the other. So you can keep both of them in front of you the whole time. First thing you want to do in Excel is, if your green bar across the top looks like mine does, I want you to double click on any one of the tabs. And what that's going to do is it will stick all of your options across the top so they won't keep disappearing on you. When we're in Excel, we're going in and out of these options a lot, so it's helpful to have them just stuck up there. So in Excel, if you've not used Excel a lot before, let's go over a little bit about what everything is. So Excel is all about rows and columns. So our rows are going horizontally from right to left. Your rows are going to be numbered. And your columns are going to be going vertically up and down. They are going to have letters. So the intersection of where a row and a column meet is called a cell. So the cell name will always show up in this box up here. So the cell is B6 because it's where row B column B meets row 6. So that cell name will always show up in that little name bar there. Across from that is what's called the entry bar. When we're using Excel and typing in formulas and things like that, this is where we're going to be doing our typing. You can click to type into a box, but you're going to notice that what you type in this box also is typed up here in the formula bar. So sometimes it's easiest to go in and edit up in that formula bar. Additionally, we've got down here at the bottom, this is our worksheet name. You can right click on the worksheet name to get a whole bunch of different options, including renaming the tab. So if you want to change the name of the sheet, you can do that. So when we're using multiple sheets, because you can click and add a second sheet or a third sheet down there, you can rename them as you need. So as a review, we have our rows, we have our columns, we have our cells, which is where a row and a column meet. The active cell is the one that's going to be bordered in green. That one's name is always up in the top left corner. And that's the one that we can edit in the formula bar. And then, our entry bar. And then down here we have our worksheet name or worksheet tab. So those are the basics that we're going to go through. Now, when we are working in Excel, you can select select cells a couple different ways. So you can click into one cell at a time, so you can click around on the page like I'm doing. Sometimes you're going to need to highlight multiple cells at once, so you can do that by clicking and holding and just dragging your mouse in whichever direction you need. You can also use your keys on your keyboard. Hold on the control key, that's the CTRL button. So click in one, hold down control and click in the second one, hold down control, click in the third, the fourth, the fifth. That allows you to select cells that are not next to each other. You can also use shift to highlight a whole bunch of cells by holding down shift on your keyboard and then clicking to highlight the whole row, or clicking to highlight a whole column if you need to. Shift will allow you to select everything between your first click and your second click. So control will allow you to select ones that are not next to each other. Shift will allow you to select all of the ones that are in between the two cells that you are clicking on. All right, let's move down on the packet. So we have covered that first page. Let's go down to the second page here. So sheet names. Earlier I'd mentioned we can change these sheet names by right-clicking on it and choosing rename. So I want you to rename sheet 1 to page 1 just by typing. Then you can also right click and change the sheet color. So I'm going to right click and do tab color, and I can change it to orange, yellow, blue, any color that I like. This can help visually help you identify which one is which, so if you're looking very quickly. So pick any color. I'm going to click purple, and now you can see that my page 1 has a purple tab. All right, let's keep moving down here. So we're now on page 3 where it says entering data. So we're going to go into cell B3, click into cell B3, and we're going to type the number 72. So when we do that now, we can change the format of the number. So that is going to be this drop down here, the one that says number. When we do that, you're going to see that there is a lot of different options. If yours is grayed out like mine is, click out of cell B3, click back onto it, and then it should no longer be grayed out. So it says general right now. That means that there's no set number format for it. But what we can do, there's a couple quick settings here: money, percentage, decimals. We can also click this drop down and see a whole bunch of different options. I want you to change this to currency. And you're going to notice that it will automatically change 72 to $72.00. Even though up in our formula bar you see that we've only typed in the numbers 7 and 2, it automatically formats it as money for us. So now what we can do is go in and change this to a negative 72. You can do that just by adding that minus sign right in front of 72. Hit the enter key, and now we've got negative $72. With money, there's a lot of extra number formats we can get to. If we click on that drop down, we're going to go to more number formats down at the very bottom. And with money, there's several different ways we can show negative numbers. There's actually 4 different ways we can show negative numbers. You can have it show up in red, you can have it show up in parentheses, you can have it show up in red parentheses, or you can have it how we have it right now. So if we do the red number in parentheses and then click OK, we're going to notice that it changes the formatting of the number. So even though we only have negative 72 typed into the formula bar, when we hit enter, Excel is doing all this extra formatting for us. All right, let's keep going in the packet and go down to printing. So while we're not going to print out physical pages for this class very often, it is good to know how to change the printing settings in here. So if you have to print for another class, there are ways where you can set your entire spreadsheet to print on just one page so you don't get it cut off weirdly when you go to print. So when you go to File and Print, it will initially show you how many pages, right here, page 1 of 1, your workbook is going to print on. You can also go under these options down here. You can do Fit Sheet on one page, fit all columns on one page, fit all rows on one page, or leave everything their same size. You can even change the margin size so you can fit more on a page. You can change whether it's portrait or landscape. And if you have multiple sheets in your workbook, you can print only the sheet you're currently in. You can print the entire workbook, or maybe you just want to highlight a certain set of cells, and then you can do print selection, and it will only print the numbers of cells that you selected. So that's some of the settings that you can do when you go to print. There are other ones though under page layout. So if you go to page layout, there's a page setup button. There is a printable area where you can set the printable area. So if you do that, you first need to highlight your whole area that you want to print, and then do set print area, and then it will only print that area that you selected. I'm going to hit undo on mine. There is also an option here to adjust your margins, just like we did when we went to print. And you can also center it horizontally, vertically. If you go into custom margins, this allows you to set your spreadsheet to look exactly like you want it when it prints. I would always check off horizontally and vertically because then it'll lay it out nice and neatly for you right there in the center of the page. You can click OK, and that's all you need to do. Let's keep moving. So there should be a header and footer button that you can click on. I'm going to go into the margins area again. So here we had margins, right next to that is header and footer. So just like in Microsoft Word, when you type in a header, it shows up on every single page that prints out. It's usually your name, maybe the page number. You can do a similar thing here. If you just want one thing to show up in the top corner of every page, you can type it into this box here. There's one for the footer. If you go into custom header, however, you have the option to put something on the left, something on the right, and something in the center. So you have 3 different places where you can have information changing, like your page number, your name, maybe the sheet name. There's lots of different options. These buttons here match up to some of these things down here. So it'll show you the options that you can use. All right, I'm going to close out of that. If you do put in a header or a footer, you're not going to see it show up on here. You'll only see it when you go to print. So for example, if I were to go and type in something right now, I'm going to type in my last name. I'm going to hit the text button, say OK. I click OK again. I don't see anything here, but when I go to File and Print, I'm going to notice it show up right there. So it's very tiny, but you can see there's a little something right there. All right, let's keep moving in our notebook. So back in that same area, I'm going to click into it this way this time. Under Sheet, these are other places where you can add some of the same things that we have already gone over. You can select rows that you like to see at the top of every page, such as the column headers. You can select your print area. You can select any columns you'd like to repeat, such as row headers. You can have the grid lines, which are these light gray lines, show up when you go to print, and a couple other options. You will most likely not be using this a whole lot, but that print area down there, those options are good to know of another place where you can go and change that. All right, going to pause now, and we're going to get into some of the cut, copy, paste, putting some data in, and making some tables. All right, we are actually going to skip over these 2 points right here, fitting cells and moving data, to first, I want you to copy this information into Excel. So I'm actually going to delete that 72. I'm going to do 5, 10, 3, and 2. And then I'm going to type in cat owners, then dog owners, then horse owners, then snake owners. So now that we have some data in our cells here, now let's go back and talk about these 2 things. With fitting cells, if you need to make your cells a little bit bigger or smaller, because you see down here it's cutting off on our row 2, you can either manually, if you hover on the little line in between cells, rows A and columns A and B, you're going to see that your cursor changes to a line with 2 arrows. You can click and drag to make it bigger. Or what you can do is if you put your cursor on that little line and then double click, it will automatically resize to fit whatever information is in that column or that row, because it works for rows as well. So first, let's make everything fit, and then if we want to move data, so say we want to take this row here, it doesn't make much sense to have the numbers above the titles. We should move those numbers down below. So highlight the rows we want to move or the cells we want to move, and then you can cut or copy. I'm going to do cut, and then I want this 5, the one that's in white, the one where I started my highlighting, to be down here. So I want A1 to move to A3. So I'm going to click in A3, and then it's going to paste B1, C1, and D1 right next to it, just like it is up there. So I'm going to paste, and then it'll move it there. The reason that's important to notice is if I maybe wanted it to go over here, if I paste it there, it's going to move them that way. So it's always going to start the pasting wherever your cursor is and move in the direction of wherever the data is. So I want my data, my table, to now look like this. So now we're going to use this to analyze a little bit of our data. So to do that, we are going to highlight the data we want in our table, and then we're going to go to the Insert tab. The Insert tab has all of these different charts we can use. I would recommend going to Recommended Charts, and then it will show you lots of different charts that you can use. So let's do the first one, that clustered column. It's going to give you a little bit of a preview of what it's going to look like. Then click OK. It's going to automatically put all of your data in for you. If you need to change anything like the chart title, you can double click, say pet owners, and then you are all set and you have your data right into your chart. Now, if you don't like how your chart looks, if it's not quite looking the way you want it to look, there is a button here that says Select Data. So I'm going to click on that, and you're going to get this window here. So this is where you can go in and you can edit the data that is being pulled into your chart. So I'm moving down here. So under series names, that's where we've got our horizontal axis that's where we've got our pet owners, or our pet names. Series 1 is just the name of the data. If you want, you can flip-flop these by doing that, and that will change how your chart looks. If you notice in the background, our chart changed, but it makes more sense for us to be that way. So our chart looks like that. Keep moving down the page. And then you also have the option, I'm going to click OK, to move your chart. Sometimes you are going to want your chart to be in your page, just like it is now. It's an object. It's like a piece of clip art you can move around. Other times you might want it to be on its own sheet all by itself. And so that's what this new sheet option is. I'm going to click OK. And when I do that, it's going to move the chart to a page all by itself, which I can then rename to pet owners. So now I've got the data on one page and the chart on the other. All right, once you've gone through the entire packet, the next thing that you're going to do is in your notebook under the Excel tab, you should have 2 other sheets here. So you have Excel Day 1 packet. You also have Excel Day 1 homework, which if you scroll down, you're going to see that you have some matching assignments here. You've got, you're going to match the different components of Excel to their names, which you can go back to the beginning of the video to see those if you missed it. And then you'll see you have Excel worksheet day 1. So the way that these work is you've got 2 spreadsheets on here that you are going to duplicate into your Excel. The first one is here. It's called Jeff's Landscaping Business. You are going to copy all of this information into Excel. And then once you're done with that, you are going to go through these steps here and change the chart or make tables, whatever it is that these things instruct you to do, you should do. So you have Jeff's landscaping business, you've got John's Pee Wee baseball team. Again, you're going to copy all of this information into a chart and then complete these tasks for it. So you can do both of these spreadsheets in the same Excel document. So in Excel, you can make them each on their own sheet. So you can have sheet 1 be called Jeff's landscaping business, and sheet 2 called John's Pee Wee baseball team. Actually, this one says to name it quarter 1, so in that case, do that. So follow the instructions on the sheet. When you're all done with both spreadsheets in the same document, you can save that document as an Excel file and then upload it to the correct spot on campus to turn it in. If you have any questions, if you are confused still, or if there's something that doesn't make sense, even after you've rewatched the video, please ask your teacher, because these are only going to keep adding on to each other. So if you miss something in the first video, you are going to need to know it for the second video. So please make sure you ask if you are confused. Other than that, get back to work and turn in your homework when you're all set.